Don't want to be a downer, but I do have a little bit more of a sadder story, but it's an update to what's happening in Illinois. So again, let me just give you guys as a reminder what's happening. In Illinois, we are recovering from a budgetary crisis. Now, the new governor, J.B. Pritzker, as well as the Illinois State House and Senate, are right now trying to figure out ways to bring back revenue to the state of Illinois. And there's been a lot of talk about the legalization of cannabis. And on last Sunday's show, I read a very positive article in which basically the legislation that's being proposed would help basically pardon 800,000 people who have been convicted for holding cannabis, the ability to grow 5 plants indoors. It would be very pro-business for business opportunities for neighborhoods in the south and west side areas of Chicago, introduce women to the ability to contribute to cannabis culture and cannabis business. And there's a lot of talk about the potential of cannabis legalization can do for increasing revenue. Again, we've mentioned Colorado, Washington, and California, but most notably Colorado, where they have a budgetary surplus and they're actually getting a tax rebate. Now, that would be great. And again, the Democrats in Illinois have been pushing for cannabis legalization, most notably J.B. Pritzker. He made that his campaign promise. We did a lot of extensive coverage during the 2018 midterm general election cycle. And for the most part, all 5 Democratic primary challengers, including J.B. Pritzker, were very pro-cannabis and allowing for its legalization within our state. And so far, he's been consistent on it, and the Democrats in the Illinois State Senate and House have the majority in both houses. So it looks like it's going to get passed, but there is some pushback, and there's a lot of anti-legalization groups that are in the state that don't want it to be passed. So at least according to this article from the Chicago Sun-Times, it looks like support for legal pot is thinning. Now, it's not bad news, but it's also not good news either. So only 2 out of 5 voters support allowing the production, use, and sale of cannabis, according to a poll. It's paid for a group that is opposing the lifting of states' cannabis prohibition. So again, this is from a group that's calling for the halt of the legalization of cannabis. So at least according to this group's polling data, again, it could be biased as well. Nearly a third of Illinoisans want the current pot laws to remain unchanged, while some people favor keeping cannabis illegal but allowing the expungement of past misdemeanor convictions. So again, keeping it illegal but then pardoning people who've had the convictions. It's I don't get what you're trying to do here exactly, because again, the war on drugs, all it has led towards is an increased incarceration population, and it's mostly impacted African-American and Latino communities. And we've seen from states that have legalized cannabis, Colorado most notably, there's been a decrease in crime, increase in revenue, and it's been beneficial for a lot of areas across that said state. I think Illinois desperately needs it. There's when we look at our state as a whole, yes, everyone knows about Chicago, but there are other townships and cities in Illinois that are lacking revenue and resources. And if we legalize cannabis, it could be a boon for tourist industries areas there, as well as bring in new businesses as well. But again, what's happening here is the group, basically they're called, let me get the correct name. Hold on. Okay, so hold on. Let me actually get the polls right now. So respondents were asked a series of questions about the cannabis policies in the state, including whether or not the production, use, and sale of cannabis should become legal. 41% of those polled said that they supported legalization. The poll broke down that favorability rating by region, sex, age, race, and political party. Now, the Colorado counties had the highest approval rating, where 44% wanted to legalize it. In Cook County, 41% supported legalization. And in downstate Illinois, 38% supported legalization. More women than men supported legalization, with 43% of women and 38% of men in favor. And so this is, again, an issue. So just under half, 47% of those under 50 favor legalization, while over a third, 36% of those over 50 support it. Both Democrats and independents were more likely to favor legalization than Republicans, and the favorability was almost split between white and African-American respondents, with 41% of white voters saying they supported and 44% saying that they supported, but there were more white respondents polled than African-Americans, 74% to 16%. So again, it's all important that we at least get the correct data and information, and perhaps more people should have been polled about this. Now, the favorability rating is down from a poll of 1,000 registered voters conducted in March by Paul Simon Public Policy Institute at Southern Illinois University in Carbondale. In the poll, the highest level of support of legalizing cannabis came from Chicago, where 75% favored it and 24% were opposed to it. Statewide, 66% of respondents favored a strongly favored legalization, while 32% opposed it in the Simon Institute poll. Now, J.B. Pritzker, our current governor, and many Democrat lawmakers are making a major play to pass a legalization within weeks that would allow Illinois residents to legally buy cannabis come January 1st. Under the proposed change, Illinois residents over 21 of age would be able to possess 30 grams of the cannabis flower or the dried plant matter that's commonly smoked, 5 grams of cannabis concentrates such as hash oil, a half a gram of THC contained in cannabis-infused products such as edibles. Again, also the ability to grow 5 plants indoors. And again, 800,000 convicted individuals would be pardoned and be reintroduced into the state. I mean, it'd be a huge relief because, again, this war on drugs is similar to prohibition, where you're making a product illegal and all it is just causing more harm and more problems. So again, the group that's kind of been really loud about this and has led the poll is called the Smart Approaches to Marijuana, and is bolstered by a lot of police chiefs and the NAACP Illinois, among others. Basically, they don't want to bring, they're arguing that the legalization won't bring in the revenue that's promised, and that will bring in regulatory burdens, more drug driving, and unregulated pot products. And again, we have to look at states like Colorado, Washington, Oregon, California, and again, these are just 4 states that have legalized it for recreational and medical use. They have revenues. They're, especially Colorado, is a successful state where initially there was pushback from a lot of conservative areas, or areas that were really neutral in regards to its legalization. But as soon as the years were going on, there was a lot of revenue, and Illinois desperately needs a budgetary surplus. It's a foreign word for a lot of people here in this state, and there's a mass exodus of people leaving this state because there's a lot of institutions and public areas that are lacking resources to basically help out the people in their communities or said districts. And there is a lot of benefit for cannabis legalization. Again, it's also important to note that right now, J.B. Pritzker and a lot of his sponsors are trying to really push this happen. He made this a campaign promise. And this is a bold prediction at this point. But if he's able to successfully get it passed in Illinois during his first term, and we're able to see some increased revenue, and people, especially working class communities, especially in the African American, Latino communities, women actually contribute to cannabis culture and cannabis business, we could see a boon in Illinois, and it's something we desperately need, and it could secure him for another second term, which would be good on his part. Right now, it is important to note that Illinois House Speaker Michael Madigan on Monday warned that the legislation passage is not guaranteed today, but he is right now looking at how it could be passed. He's viewing it as a controversial thing, but of course, majority of the Illinois Democrats seem to be on board, especially in the Senate and in the House. And this is more of a way to concentrate power. The Democrats in our state have the majority, and this is something that J.B. Pritzker wants to see passed. He's promised to sign it. But again, with some of the polling that's being gathered here, more people in our state should be called up, asked about it, and we just can't use traditional landlines. It has to be done through the internet so that people can contribute and actually participate in whether or not our state should have it legalized. And there's a lot of benefits for it, and we need to have this conversation, and hopefully we actually eventually will lead to the way where we end this ridiculous war on drugs. Already, our neighbors to the north, shout out to you, Karamos and JTVJ, you guys legalized cannabis nationwide in your country. So it's something the United States needs to do. Hopefully we can have it legalized, but it looks like this is going to be still an uphill fight, but I'm confident, and I think if Daniel and Paul were able to comment as well, it's beneficial if we legalize cannabis. So hopefully we see it happen.